request will be asked to come forward to the microphone and express their opinion. Each side will have 10 minutes to speak. Development plans require a public hearing. However, no action will be taken by the Planning Commission members. Plats, rezonings, revised master plans, street renamings, and text amendments require a public hearing. And once the public hearing is completed, Planning Commission members will deliberate and render their decision. Planning Commission members with a personal or financial interest in any petitioner's request are required to recuse themselves. The members of the Planning Commission are Mr. Frank Cook, our chairman, Ann Clemens, yours truly, vice chairman, Buddy Harwick, Cruz Reeves, Reginald Hawkins, Reg Mantooth, Reggie Dunn, James Reed, and Kippy Tate, last but certainly not least. The members of the Planning Control staff are James Center and Tanya Ingram. Members and petitioners are requested to please speak directly into the microphone. The minutes are recorded for legal purposes, and this is the only way to accurately pick up the audio. Tonight we have 9 members present. It takes 5 votes to pass a motion, and because of the number of boards present, which is ideal, if you would like to delay your request, please let us know when your request is announced. Mr. Chairman, are you ready?
I am. You ready?
The first item is presented by Jeff Coach Engineering.
Just a minute before we get number 1. The minutes from last month. Anybody got any questions about the minutes?
I got a couple of comments. James
minutes.
is not wasn't here last time.
Yeah, I was here. I
Oh,
just
you were
wasn't
here?
the president.
Okay, and
Jerome.
You don't have the right folks here.
Okay.
You got James as chairman, you got Jerome as vice chairman.
Got some old information. I'll change that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions about the minutes?
Makes it easier to understand without those masks in front of the microphone.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Sounds like Charlie Brown.
Been told that sound like a lot. It's the first time Charlie Brown. Thank you. All right. Any other questions about the minutes? Changes to the minutes? With those changes in place, are they approved? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Excuse me. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Guthrie Jeff Coat from Jeff Coat Engineers and Surveyors, and I'm here representing Bubba Seaman, and he wants to demolish an existing building and replace it with a little larger warehouse at a location on the Birmingham Highway, 3630 Birmingham Highway, and it'll be used for storage, and there'll be a little cleanup of the area around there as far as parking and so forth, but basically he's replacing something he's already got, just a little larger and a little bit more up to date. Try to answer your questions if I can.
All right. Anyone in the Planning Commission have any questions? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, Mr. Jeff Coates, this is a development plan.
Thank you.
Been heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
The second item is presented by Kyle Kaiser Jr., representing Dr. Love, a public hearing for a development plan for a new building to be located at 1311 Old Oak Place in an O1 office zoning. This is a development plan and will not require a vote.
I'm Doug Durden, representing Kyle Kaiser for Jerry Kaiser Builder and KMP Alley LLC, and we're just requesting this will be a medical office building to further extension for River Region Dermatology.
Thank you. Does anyone in the Planning Commission have any questions?
Did the Board of Adjustments approved the variance?
They did.
Okay.
What about any shrub? Will you have any shrub around the property?
Yes, we'll be doing anything that for landscaping that's needs to be done, and we'll present a landscape plan when we do a plan submittal. Is that satisfactory for you?
Yeah, I think it'll be okay to take your mask off. He was saying I wasn't. He couldn't hear me with my mask on, so.
We're planning on submitting a landscape plan when we do the building permit, and yes, we will have whatever is needed for code for adequate landscaping for a blind.
All right.
I got another question. What is this building gonna look like? I just see a floor plan.
I do not have a floor plan with me, but it will be very similar in nature to what she currently has. It's Dr. Portia Lovell, and we built the building for her on the corner. If you would like, I can give you that front elevation. I just don't have it with me right now.
No, that's all right. I'm familiar with the building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, this is the development plan. Thank you for coming. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The third item is presented by Pilgrim Engineering, representing the Most Reverend Thomas L. Rhodey, Archbishop of Mobile. This is a request for final approval of St. Jude Plat Number 1, located on the northeast corner of West Fairview and Hill Street in an M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. This is a plat and will require a vote.
I'm Pep Pilgreen with Pilgreen Engineering. This is a plat of the school that's out there. St. Jude's is looking to sell the property, and we just need to plat it for them.
Okay. They just selling just the school?
They're trying to, yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the Planning Commission?
Yes, I have one, Mr. Chairman. So what about the football field and the area behind the school? If they sell the school, then do you know what the plans are for the remainder of the property?
No, I don't. Not at this time.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, this requires a vote.
Motion approved.
Is there a second. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries.
Cruz, how did you vote? I can't hear you.
Who's that?
I can't hear you.
I'm for it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is represented by Duber Properties, LLC, representing P&B LLC. Request final approval of P&B LLC Plat Number 2, located on the northeast corner of North Bainbridge Street and East Jefferson Street in the T40 zoning district. This is a plat and will require a vote.
Yes, sir.
We have a large lot with two buildings
You'll
on
take your
it.
mask down. They're having a hard time understanding that.
Sure.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We've got a large property with two buildings on it. We have a purchaser for one of the buildings, so we need to divide the lot so we can sell off that particular building.
Okay.
Which building is for sale?
Well, we hope to sell both of them eventually, but currently we have a prospect for the one on the corner.
That's the smaller lot that you're doing, right?
I think
Mark?
as I recall it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, this calls for a vote. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The fifth item is presented by Moon Consulting LLC, representing Home 2 Suites and Resident Inn Hotels. This is a public hearing for development plan for 2 new buildings to be located on the north side of East Chase Parkway, approximately 300 feet west of Minnie Brown Road in a B2 commercial zoning district. This is a development plan and will not require a vote.
All right.
Good evening. My name is David Moon. I made the application on behalf of Ram Hotels out of Columbus, Georgia. Ram owns 25 hotels, including 5 hotels here in Montgomery. They propose to build 2 new hotels on the 5.3-acre parcel located at East Chase Parkway and Minnie Brown Road. The hotels would be a Residence Inn and a Home 2 Suites, 96-room and 97-room respectively. The project required a variance for height and story and a side yard buffer, which we sought last zoning board adjustment hearing and was approved. We met with the Wind Lakes HOA and the Coventry HOA, which is directly adjacent to the property, in May to present the project and go over it with them, address their concerns. And we have support from both HOAs for the project. We have the president of the Coventry HOA here with us tonight if you'd like to hear from him. That's a short presentation. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Thank you. Anybody else on the Planning Commission have any questions on this?
What was some of their concerns?
Of course, the landscaping and buffer between their residential property and the hotel was a major concern. There's an existing vegetated buffer that we're going to maintain a 60-foot natural buffer between their property line and our improvements. So it'll be heavily vegetated. There'll be a lot of existing vegetation left, some large trees there, and then what we do disturb, we're going to come back and replant. That was one of their major concerns. Traffic was a concern. This is a light-use traffic type of facility as compared to some that are allowed in this district, and I think that they realized that. Garbage pickup was brought up as an issue. We've agreed, which is normal hotel practice, to have the dumpsters removed during the day, typically in the morning, and it won't be done at night. Lighting was discussed. We'll have low light levels. All the lighting will be ejected away from the residential property and adjacent properties and onto the hotel property. Storm drainage was addressed, and we're meeting the city's storm drainage regulations, which requires some water quality and underground storage treatment. I think those were the main issues that they brought up.
Let's talk about the buffer for a second, if you don't mind.
Talk about what, sir?
The buffer. You mentioned the buffer.
Sure.
Is the buffer, the trees and the buffer at such a height that it would block the views from the 4 stories over into their backyards?
Yes.
Thank you. He brought elevations. Thank you.
These are elevations that show the relationship of the proposed hotels to the residential property behind them. As you can see, the hotels sit some 17 feet lower in elevation than the alley and the houses behind them. The trees that are depicted here are the large existing trees as well as some new trees that we'll plant along that buffer. So the question of will you be able to look out a 4th-story hotel room into the residential property, and the answer is not unless there's a gap between the trees, which we can't guarantee, but the trees will be there.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, this is a good example, in my opinion, of why. Is there any way that we can ask that elevations accompany the development plans? Because this is a great example of clearing up a lot of questions. Just looking at the plan and plan view sometimes doesn't give you the true picture. Maybe this is an administrative question that we could pose to the staff, but I'd like to have elevations included with the development plans.
We can certainly ask. Can't guarantee that they'll provide them.
A lot of times, Mr. Tate, they haven't gotten that far into the project yet. We're still looking at the civil aspects
That's just some additional expense of.
Well, and a lot of
on
times,
the plan.
if they're rolling the dice to try to get something approved or whatever, most of the time, that would have been addressed at the board, which is where it was addressed. It was and they questioned the line of sights and stuff like that. So, but we can definitely ask Mr. Tate.
I would appreciate it. I mean, this is a perfect example of a question being answered, and he could show it, and it was demonstrated very well that what he discussed with the neighbors is in fact a buffer, not just horizontally, but vertically as well.
Yes, sir.
We can ask.
Thank you.
David, did y'all have any comments or questions or debate over that right out only onto East Chase?
Well, that actually was a city engineering comment to reduce traffic congestion. The left turn movement out of the hotel site's next to impossible, as you probably know. There's an existing driveway there, serves the Fairfield Inn with a cross easement that we'll be using and modifying for this project to eliminate the left outs.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? Yes, sir. If you'll come forward and
To the mic.
to the mic.
Yes, my name is Angel Rodriguez. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association of Coventry, which is west, will be west of what the proposed project would be.
Speak into the mic. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Angel Rodriguez, I'm president of Homeowners Association at Coventry, and the subdivision is west of where the project would be, west, southwest. The main, one of our biggest concern when we were invited to a meeting with RAM was the buffer. The buffer will remain, I believe it's going to be 30 feet. It's going to be the buffer between.
It's 30 feet existing, and then we're actually going to provide 60 feet green space between our first improvements.
The elevation of where the project's going to be is actually lower than the elevation of our property. As long as that buffer remains on the west southwest side, I don't believe that residents that are immediately to the property line are going to be able to see the hotel, and neither are any residents that live in the inner parts, in the inner houses in the neighborhood. Fact is, if you go further on East Chase, where the sporting goods store is, we can see that store. When I moved there in 2010, we couldn't hear the interstate, and that store was not there, I believe. And they built that store and they cleared trees, and there remains a buffer there, but it's bare. There are no trees, and we can hear the interstate all day long, and see the structures on the other side. I can see the interstate from my house now. I don't think that's going to be the case once this project is started. In fact, it's going to help the noise from the interstate. It's going to buffer that noise coming across, I believe.
So you agree with the project?
We're in support of the project. It's not going to affect our residents coming out of the subdivision going left, because our entrance almost sticks out onto Minnie Brown Road. So we actually support the project. Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? If not, this is a development plan. It has been heard. Thank you for your time. Thank you, sir.
And if you don't mind, I'm the next item on the agenda for the plat for this same property. I'll just stay here if you don't mind.
The sixth item on the agenda is by Arrington Engineering, representing RAM Montgomery Hospitality. Request final approval of East Chase Hotel Plat Number 1, located on the south side of East Chase Parkway, approximately 300 feet west of Minnie Brown Road in a B2 commercial zoning district. This is a plat and will require a vote.
The plat is simply to take the single 5.3 acre parcel and split it into two parcels, one for each hotel. They're two different franchises.
Okay. Any questions from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, this requires a vote. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
The seventh item on the agenda is presented by Gonzalez Strength and Associates, representing Main Street Urgent Care. It is a public hearing for a development plan for a new building to be located at 3039 Vaughn Road in an O1 office zoning. This is a development plan and will not require a vote.
Hello, I'm Bill Wilson, Gonzalez Strength and Associates, 1550 Woods River Chase Drive, Hoover, Alabama 35244.
Pull the mic down so that
Okay. Is that good?
it's better.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We are located Vaughn Roads to our south. Zelda Road actually comes across on the other side of the church. The church borders are west. We have the academy over here, parking lot to our east. What we're proposing to do right now is do a medical office. It's about 4,000 square feet. The building will be here. We'll have parking in the front that'll parallel Vaughn Road, and then our access will actually be on Vaughn Road too. You may have a site plan that's in your packet that shows the access over to the private drive. It's on the church's property. After we submitted that plan, the developer met with the church and was not able to work out access over to the church. So I worked with the traffic department, Bruce Taunton, about access up here on Vaughn Road, and this is where the traffic department has approved the location out here on Vaughn Road. But that's what we're looking at doing, and love to entertain any questions you guys may have.
Is that a right in, right out on Vaughn Road?
It's full directional.
Has there been any traffic study or anything done?
No, sir.
You know, that the school parking lot for the students is right next to that. So I would think that traffic would be a nightmare when school's getting in and getting out. Especially if it's not right in, right out.
Office things like that, especially medical office, you got different peaks. You know, school peaks in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, afternoon, 3 to 3. Offices like this, medical offices, is kind of through the day because you got appointments and things of that nature. So I wouldn't think it would conflict as much as it would as if it was, you know, something of similar use.
Didn't the Montgomery Academy have some say-so in what was going in that area? Or have y'all talked with the academy?
I'm not sure if the developer has or not. It was zoned office, so this
Right.
is, you know, it fit the use. So I'm not sure if you had any conversations with the academy or not.
To my knowledge, that would be no, they haven't. I think there will be some concern from the academy because of the added traffic with their students parking right next door.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't know if you've ever been along that portion of Vaughn Road. When it's congested, my friend, it's congested, and the poor souls who will be trying to enter into Vaughn Road from that parking lot to make a left-hand turn, they can forget it. And the poor soul is trying to enter and making a right-hand turn across the lanes to get in there, can forget it. Not just during the times that you just mentioned, but I'm very familiar with that area, and would encourage you to, since this is a development plan, to go back and try to deal with that access, because it's going to be a problem. I can almost assure you of that. But the other question that I have is, so the drawing that's in the packet is not necessarily the drawing that we're considering tonight. The drawing that was handed out after we got here is the drawing that we're considering, right?
Yes, the access to Vaughn Road.
With access to
Be
Vaughn
the
Road.
different, yes, yes, sir.
Now, I know that some members from the church are here. Do you all see what he's presenting, and is this what you think you understand?
We can't see that. We don't have a drawing of the entrance.
But maybe he can put the site plan up on the screen.
That's the old site plan.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's the old suit where it was down on through Drive to the church. We changed it.
They may need to come up and talk into the mic, my friend.
I need to talk to the mic.
So where are you changing it to, the driveway?
It's here. This is
So this by the parking lot of the academy, right?
That's correct. This is the parking lot for the academy.
So it's coming directly parallel to the academy?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, that's gonna be
It was here. That's the drive to the church right there. So we had it here, kind of like it shows there. So we cut that off. So our parking lot will end here, and we'll access Bond Road.
Well, my biggest concern is gonna be the traffic problem there, and that is a major problem even now with the church traffic on Sundays when we coming out and going in.
Can you speak in the mic, please?
And that, in the turn lane there, that going from Vaughn to Zelda Road, that's an immediate turn, less than a quarter of a, it's yards away from this entrance point, so you got two entrance and exit points within 50 feet of each other, almost. And that's gonna be a difficult traffic problem there.
Can I say something as well? Also, I don't think this company has talked to Montgomery Academy, but we have. And I talked to...
Excuse me. Could you didn't also, you need to give your name and your address for the record.
Derek Murray, 3033 Vaughn Road.
Okay, go ahead.
So we did talk to the principal tonight, and they do have some concerns about a driveway being that close to their parking lot where their kids park. So we're here tonight because we wanted to make sure that they still wasn't presenting the old plans, but not only did we have some concerns, but Montgomery Academy had some concerns as well, even with the new plan that they have.
This may be a directive to the staff. I'm not sure which one we need
Yeah.
to talk to, but
You're gonna have to take your mask.
when this development plan was presented, there's no way that you can have one entrance that would be the entrance to the parking lot and a little side road or something that gets over to this building. I just take these two entrances right here. Did they look at that, or is the staff looking
Well,
at that?
Mr. Chairman, the traffic engineering department reviewed it and approved the alternate drive. My suggestion would be for the petitioner to get with the gentlemen that have the concerns and reach out back to the traffic engineering department, because ultimately they're going to be the ones that solve this.
Okay, that has not been done to your knowledge.
It has been done. The one that you've got as a supplement is what the traffic engineering department approved. If they've got concerns, they will have to take them up with the.
Okay.
It's not this body's going to be able to fix it.
Okay.
My name is Jesse Lewis, 3207 Babbitt Circle. I have a question. I noticed, wanted to ask a question, do this company plan on trying to get an easement to the sewer system that's on the church's property?
No, sir. There's sewer in Vaughn Road, so we're planning on tying on the sewer in Vaughn Road.
All right. Any other questions from the audience? Any other questions from the Planning Commission?
I have a suggestion. Maybe, are you willing to go back and talk to the people from the school? Do you want to go back and talk to the people from the school?
I can ask the developers if he already has, just to confirm, and then ask if he would approach the school.
Okay, because we're not voting on it tonight anyway.
No, we're not.
Right.
We're not voting.
No, right.
But it will be a good idea.
But you will be back before us.
Right.
That's why he's saying what he's saying.
Come back before you?
No, you will be back.
Yeah.
You will be back before us.
We'll be back for
The phone.
Before this board.
five. What's the next
This is just a
approval?
development plan, this is just a hearing.
Right. So what's the next approval, when the next time I come back?
Give it to him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hardwick, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Oh, he won't have to come back on this?
No, sir. This is a public hearing.
Okay,
This is a
I'm
public.
wrong. I'm wrong.
You scared me there for a second.
So
I
whatever,
didn't miss something.
hey buddy, whatever bite you want to take, you need to take it now, because once he leaves, he won't be coming back.
Well, I've already taken all I've got. I just,
But I do have just a
I guess
general.
on the good side, they'd be close to an urgent care center when they have those wrecks there.
There you go. I mean, this is just a tough situation, I guess, for staff. They have to have access to their property,
Yes, sir.
but it's just in a bad location.
Bad location.
And I'm here to tell you, my friend, and we don't vote on this, so it means nothing, but I can assure you that there's going to be issues at this intersection. And I'm not hoping or wishing for that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, just as the folks from the church explained, this is just a very congested area. And the right in, right out might be the only way to, from an engineer, you're an engineer, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Well, I'll suggest that you take a closer look at provide some sort of right in, right out arrangement here, just for the public safety of not just your clients, but just for folks traveling along that road. I think that would be a good engineering practice if I were you.
Okay, we'll discuss it with the traffic department. Like, we showed this to the traffic staff, and they were okay with it,
But you're missing my point. I'm not going to allow you to hide behind you got a license, right?
Right.
So I'm not going to allow you to hide behind the staff by saying you're doing. I'm telling you, as a professional engineer, you should consider this for good practice.
Right.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm not asking you to tell me what the staff is telling you.
I've stamped this plan, so
But
that's my professional opinion.
Well, I tend to have an issue with your professional opinion if you don't want to consider right in, right out.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
You have to come to the mic there.
Now, originally, when we purchased the land right adjacent to this property here, we was also told by the academy that it was zoned for institutional, and the only way something could come on that corner there is that it had to go through the academy and their developer to look at that. Jesse Lewis once again.
It's zoned for Mike, but it's zoned for office. But I just got a message from the principal, and he said we should be willing to ask for a consideration of a traffic study. And he said you could possibly ask for a traffic study and ask to hold it over. And that's from the principal of Montgomery Academy.
Well, the development plan is going to go into effect in 30 days, no matter what we do. I mean, we can vote against it, but it's still going to go into effect.
Mr. Chairman, I remind you, you don't vote.
It's going to go into effect. Now, if you need to speak to the principal, I assume they're the one that's selling the land, right?
No.
They are not selling are y'all selling the land? You've lost me. I thought it belonged to one or the other.
I know the academy doesn't own it, or the church doesn't own it.
Okay.
I'm not sure who the
I guess
exact
I've always
owner is.
thought one or the other owned it, so I'm wrong.
Mr. Chairman, once I relay or staff relays to the traffic engineer and the traffic engineering department, they're going to look at this with a finer tooth.
Okay.
And that's where the buck stops.
Okay.
It'll be Mr. Wilson's purview to line everything up. Anybody concerned, from the principal to the deacons and the pastor or whatever, will have their time to talk to traffic engineering, because they're not going to just not revisit this because of the concerns.
Okay.
And I think the school never saw this plan with the access from Vaughn Road. I mean, they may have seen the original that was in our packet, but to my knowledge, they didn't know this one until tonight or earlier today.
I mean, just for goodwill, you know, talk to the school. I mean, just for goodwill. I mean, right, you don't have to, but I mean, you know.
The traffic engineer is a real stand-up guy, and he's not going to let issues like this go unseen. So I reiterate, we're back to the fact that we've got to let the traffic engineering department do their job.
Well, hold on now. Stop. Something in the milk ain't straight then, because I'm looking at my packet, it says traffic engineering, no objections. Now you're telling me they're going to take another stab at it. Which one is it?
No, sir. I'm telling you that since there's concerns, they'll take another look at it. The supplement that you've got in front of you, they've approved. They will go back and revisit it.
To do what? When they revisit it, what is the objective of revisiting it?
As Mr. Reed said, sir, just, you know, common courtesy.
But they just said they have no objections, so I don't understand what you're telling me. It's right here. Traffic engineering, ... no objections.
Yes, sir.
So I don't want the folks up here on this panel, nor the people in the audience, to think that they got a chance of getting this changed because they just said no objections. So if the no objections mean that they can get another bite at it, then tell me. But no objections means no objections to me.
Mr. Tate, I can't answer that because I'm not the traffic engineer.
Well,
I'm just
then
saying
that's my whole point.
He will revisit it. He will revisit the entire thing from
Well, is he here tonight?
scratch.
I want him to say that. Is he here tonight?
No, sir.
Well, can you speak for him?
I can tell you that I will strongly urge him to reevaluate the situation because of the concerns that were raised tonight, and the professional that he is, he will do so. I feel comfortable in telling you that.
So then does that mean I'm just trying to figure out what it means when he says no objections, but now he can revisit it and change it.
Mr. Tate, anything can be revisited, and he may have some answers to the concerns that we don't have. That's what the approval was based on.
So let me ask another question, maybe a little different way. Maybe he can revisit it when the Montgomery Academy principal calls down here and tell him to revisit it, and maybe these folks will have a chance at getting what they want. But right now, he has no objections.
I'm not even going to try to speculate on what.
I'm just trying to say.
I'm not going to try to speculate on what a phone call from the academy.
Well, but you're speculating on the engineer.
No, sir. I'm just telling you. I know them, and they're going to revisit it. Is what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you they're going to. I'm not going to tell you that they're going to take away their approval or they're going to change anything.
Can I say something? I talked to both engineers yesterday, and the reason why they told this company to try to get access through us because the traffic engineers had the same concerns about the traffic off of Vaughn Road. Now, when I talked to them yesterday, one traffic engineer knew nothing about it. Because I said, well, apparently some things have changed because there's a hearing on Thursday night. And he said, well, I remember talking to this company months ago, and we told them to try to go through the church to get an access agreement because they had traffic flow concerns. So he said he had to call the other traffic engineer to see if he gave approval for this new plan. And that traffic engineer said that he did give approval for it. So even yesterday, the traffic engineers were not even on the same page about this.
That's my point, my friend, because what the traffic engineer approved was an access onto this property from a private drive. That's what he approved.
So I think we all just need to, between us and the school and this company, and I think we all just need to talk to the traffic engineers before a decision is made.
But Pastor, what you don't understand is, so that you understand, we don't make a decision up here. The decision's been made by the traffic engineer. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. So this is a staff problem that's been, again, brought to this body when the staff has got the problem. Because what I have in my packet, the traffic engineer approved of access to this property from a private drive. Now you're telling me he's going to revisit it. Is he going to put it back on the private drive, or what is he going to do?
Now, everybody was asking a question what the Montgomery Academy has to do with this. When we purchased our property over there, originally all this property was under the direction of the Masonic Masons in that area, on that property, and they got a covenant on that property. And I'm pretty sure y'all should have got that or hadn't gotten it, because if you're looking at covenant, it tell you everything that can happen there and who you have to go through to get that approved. And Montgomery Academy was one of the people in that covenant.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm done with it. So we can move on.
I think we've had this comment. Obviously, we appreciate your time from coming. Thank you, sir. Next item.
The next item is presented by Gonzalez Strength Associates, representing Lions Pride Oil Incorporated. This is a public hearing for development plan for a new building and a canopy to be located at 6850 Vaughn Road in a B4 commercial zoning district. This is a development plan and will not require a vote.
Bill Wilson, Gonzalez Strength and Associates again. The property is located, again, on Vaughn Road. Vaughn Road is at the top of your page here, so it'll be to our north. And Bell Road to be to our east, and we'll be connecting to both. We'll have a full directional drive on Vaughn and a right-in, right-out on Vaughn. The full directional will be on the west side of the property. Right-in, right-out be on the east side of the property. Then we'll have access down to Bell Road as well. We're looking at putting a convenience store, about 7,500 square feet. It'll have 10 to 12 pumping stations in a single row that will parallel Vaughn Road, parking around it, and then we'll have access on the east side. That'll actually be shared by a lot here to the east. It would be actually the remainder of the property. And then we'll share the drives to Bell Road and share the drives to Vaughn Road for both pieces of property. So I'd like to entertain any questions you may have.
I just got a dumb question. Now you got two right-in, right-outs that's further away from the intersection on this property, on this proposal, versus the right-in, right-out that you refuse to discuss down there on the other end of Vaughn Road. I'm just trying to understand where's the logic. You got right-in, right-outs, and you were further away from this intersection, at the intersection of Bell and Vaughn. But go to the other end of Vaughn, where you're closer to the intersection, it's just as congested as it is down here, but there is no right-in, right-out. I just don't really understand.
Actually, we do have a right-in, right-out. It's here. And then we have a full directional at the other end.
That's what I'm saying. You got a right-in, right-out on this one.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason...
Because we have two accesses. The one on the previous case is one access. It's the only access we got to our property. This is two accesses. So you can do a right-in, right-out, and if you got the full, you're dispersing traffic, so you got two entrance points, and you got a way for people to get in and out all directions.
I don't want to rehash the old project we just left, but how do you make a left-hand turn out of your property across two lanes? Wouldn't that be a little bit more difficult than trying to achieve access on the Vaughn Road from a right-in, right-out arrangement?
Well, let
but
me
we don't
ask
have
you
to
this.
go back. You don't have to answer that question because that project's over. But I'm just simply saying I don't understand your logic. But that's okay.
I would just answer it with a question. You'd be okay with a piece of property that had no way to get left out of it on either case?
I'll tell you what I'd be okay with. I'd find another engineer. That's what I'd be okay with. Thank you.
I'd put on record that I do not appreciate that statement.
Well,
I stand, as a proud engineer. I passed a PE. I've got a stamp. I've been doing this for 22 years.
Good for you.
Done a lot of things in the city of Montgomery. But I felt that's an attack on me personally, and I would just like to go on the record.
It's on the record.
I don't appreciate that.
It's on the record. It's on TV.
Well, let me ask you something. Sir, here, right here. Here,
Sorry.
here.
Sorry.
Let me ask you something. Are you a part of the chevron that's coming in there? Or this is something totally separate, or what?
This is, John, the Chevron? Is it a Chevron? I'm sorry, I didn't know the brand. Is it a Chevron gas?
No, I'm saying there's a Marathon already there, and there's plans for a Chevron next to Marathon. And what I'm asking you is, your building gonna be part of Chevron, or is it a separate deal altogether? So now there's gonna be three service, what? Well, you're shaking your head.
No, it's off the mic, John.
You're asking about the proposed chevron?
That's what he's asking.
Yeah, it will be the building that you see on the site plan. I don't know what is the chevron. It's a convenience store.
So what you're asking here is gonna be a part of Chevron?
It is.
Yes,
It is a chevron.
Chevron is the project.
Okay, well, that's what I was asking. All
Yeah.
right. Now, have you talked to the neighbors?
Yes, sir.
And they have no objection to?
No, they had
this
some
plan?
concerns. We sent out invitations. And
But have you talked to them?
Yes, sir, we have. And they're right back here. So we listened to their concerns, and we will do probably 100% of what they asked us to do.
What were some of the concerns?
One was, if you look on, is that me up there?
Yes.
You got, you know where Brighton Estates is?
Yes.
So the back of the property, you
Yes.
got Bushmill Road that kind of dead ends into the church property, Norris
Yes.
property. They're concerned about pedestrian traffic. So their suggestion was, could we put a fence up to prohibit pedestrian traffic, and we will. And so it will be the engineer and maybe the city engineer and the urban forester talking about the fence. But this just looks upside down.
Take your mask off, John.
Can you hear me?
Well, they're having a problem catching the video.
So from the corner of Bushmill Road, maybe all the way along what is the church property,
Yeah.
We were talking with some of the homeowners, and they're thinking that's the better location for the fence, and I probably agree with them, so that's what we'll do.
What about lighting?
The lighting was another concern. So in addition to the trees that we're planting and the screening, natural screening, all the lights will be focused towards the commercial property with screens and directed, and as little as bleeding as possible will be installed. And then another concern was the operating hours. And they're going to come up and speak, but they're okay with 10 to 11 as a closing time. They don't want anything after that, and I think the owner is fine with that as well. And I might be. And then another suggestion was on the west boundary, so that would be backed up to Brighton Homes. So if you look on your landscape plan, there's bushes and then pretty big trees proposed to be planted along that line. And it was suggested that maybe we put a berm to raise a little bit, so you're starting out with 12 to 13, 14-foot trees. If you put a little berm, you're starting out with 13 to 15-foot trees. And that was a suggestion by the homeowners. So as long as the slope fits in, I think we can put a berm in there. Just, I can't define how tall the berm would be without an engineer telling me. And so, yeah, this is the picture. So you see Bushmill Road.
Yeah.
The property that's on the, that would be the north side of Bushmill Road. They have a fence, so the logical place would we tie into that fence, take it across Bushmill, and then completely go east, kind of between the proposed road there and the church property. And that's for to knock down any potential pedestrian, people leaving and walking through the neighborhood, or vice versa.
Is this going to come through that little soccer field area? That little soccer, where they play soccer now?
No, this is only the Norris property. We're not touching the church's property.
Yeah, but there's a little soccer field next to the church that comes onto the that's on Bell Road. I'm asking you, is that entrance going to come through that?
No, it's coming through there's about a 0.67 acre piece of property. I know I'm describing this because I've seen, you got the little marathon station, then you got the fruit stand guy, then you got the AT&T plant central station, then you've got a 0.67 acre, right, and then next to that is the soccer field. I think the soccer field is more behind that, is it not?
Nah, it's on Bell Road.
Okay, yeah, we're not on that at all.
But you're not coming through there for the street that's going to the circus.
No, that's on the Norris property. It's not on the church property. Okay. That right there where the cursor is right now is the Norris property.
Okay, I don't think you're on. Okay, all right.
Did y'all secure the easement on the south side of the property to the east of you, all the way to Vaughn Road? Is that what y'all did? Just get an easement?
For the road that's proposed there?
I'm talking about from the property to Bell Road.
Yes.
That's an easement that y'all obtained from the owner.
Correct.
So you have it. You have a written easement is what you've got.
Correct.
All right, sir.
It's not recorded though because we haven't closed yet. Yes, we got an easement.
It will be.
Yes.
Yeah. And just one other quick question, if I could. There are a lot of service stations that we see existing, and so I'm going to ask the same question that I normally ask. Is there a liquor store that is planned for this?
I don't know. It's a convenience store, so there'll probably be beer and wine.
Well, yeah, but they've added on the end of a lot of these existing that are on small lots. Now, this isn't a small lot, but they've added a liquor store.
Right. I'm just the broker, so I don't know if he's even got that far yet.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to marry up what's on the can't figure this out. Lot 1A on the what they call the site plan here. Where is Lot 1A on the aerial photograph?
That would be the property between the proposed C-store.
Can you go to the aerial photograph, please? Where is Lot 1A?
Right there. It's basically where the old Norris home is.
Okay, so there's a buffer. That's a buffer there. So I guess where the red outline really doesn't necessarily cover the.
Right. It's not accurate. It's just to give you an idea of the location.
Yeah, I mean, I see the road, but I was trying to figure out where Lot 1A was in relationship to the rest of the property.
It's right there, yeah.
So what's going to happen with the remainder of the property? I see you've got the stormwater management area, retention pond somewhere down in this lower portion. So what about the rest of the property on the lower end, on the south end of the red?
That's going to be maintained by the current owners. So the C-store operator, Mr. Patel, is just buying if you're looking at it, the left side, and then they're going to continue to own the right side. I think it's going to be, Bill can tell me, but about a 1.4 acre excess property left over.
All right.
All right. I'm
Anyone else want to discuss this item? Anyone in the audience wish to discuss this? If
Come
not,
to the mic. Come to the mic.
Please give your name and your address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Jesse Miles, and I live at 6900 Short Line Circle, which is in Bell Station. We have a president, we have an association with 4 officers. We were not told about this, even though we did see the sign saying Land Use Division meeting, which we're at now. So for him to say he's talking to the homeowners, I thought I heard him say that. We were not told about this. My concern is, like everyone else, is traffic. I'm not against business, but this coming off from the Bell Road, and it's not very far from the intersection of Bell and Vaughn. He called it the west side, which is Brighton Estates, which is a subdivision across from us. We live across the highway. But the in and out, left turn and right turn either way, you're talking about congestion, and the number of wrecks I think is going to happen coming out of this place because of the entrance over onto Bell Road, and it's going to be really congestion galore. So my concern is the traffic and the wrecks that are going to happen there. Turning left onto Bell and right onto Bell, people going in and out. It's already a madhouse now at certain times of the day on Bell and Vaughn, and this is another concern with traffic. And so that's my obligation. I mean, that's my question about why do we need another service station there or an entrance over onto Bell Road? I know you need access to get rid of traffic, but that's going to be really congestion now. I mean, it's already bad now. It's going to be worse. And if you allow people to come out and go in off of Bell Road, now I'm not talking about Vaughn now, that's crazy already. Now onto Bell, it's going to make it even worse. That's my 2 cents.
Am I allowed to take the mask down when I talk?
yes, please do.
Rhonda Miles, 6900 Short Line Circle. I want to expound on what Jesse Miles just said. So on this map right here, right now, if you go to that red light at Bell and Vaughn in the morning at 7 o'clock, you have people taking the right turn lane only. They go up there and then they put the left blinker on to get in front of people who are waiting at the light because they don't want to wait in line. And so all the good people that, obey the laws, we have to wait 2 or 3 times for the light to change because these people, it's not one guy and it's not one morning, it's every morning and it's a bunch of people. And so it says right turn only. Well, that sign's been down for over a year in the bushes. And I'm not an engineer, and I don't want to, discredit you in any way, but I live there and I see it on a daily basis. And if you have people coming out on Bell, they should only turn right. Otherwise, you've got 1 lane going south, and then you've got 3 lanes going north, with the farther right lane supposed to be turning right. And the same on Vaughn. Right now at that marathon, you see people coming out of that marathon, there needs to be a sign, right turn only. Not that they probably would, really do it, because you see people trying to go over 3 lanes of traffic to go left. I mean, it's just, you got a school coming down on Bell Road, a school's being built down there, and I don't know, it's been over 10 years that this particular property went B4, and that's back when there was a house on there, and so it kind of snuck up on us. We didn't know it was going to be going B4, but since it has been B4, you've got all these other businesses that have since come on there. I don't see how the traffic is going to work on there, and plus, if you go down towards the bypass, that Hardee's down there, that's supposed to be a Circle K. I mean, you've already got Bruno's over there on the right side, vacant, been vacant for years, and now the Marathon's going to be vacant. Probably the Matco down on Vaughn is going to be vacant. I just think it's going to be a real nightmare. We have 13 homes on Bell Road in Bell Station, and every year the fence gets hit. And now you're going to increase the traffic? It's not going to be a pleasant thing. thing. It's not going to be, I think that the city will have to encounter a lot more problems if they allow this to go forward.
Good evening, Felicia Williams.
In the mic,
Microphone.
please.
Microphone.
I'm sorry. You can pull it down.
Pull it down.
And take your mat. Yeah, you got it out.
Pardon me?
That's
Go
it.
ahead.
Okay. Felicia Williams, 2032 Station Court. I'm a Bell Station resident as well. And while I echo everything that my neighbors have said, I also would like to emphasize that we are, I think I speak on behalf of all of my neighbors to say that we are adamantly opposed to a lot of the factors that this type of business would bring to our community. It will detract from everything that is residential friendly and environmental friendly, and I heard the gentleman talking about a berm or whatever, but the lights, the noise, the foot traffic, the vehicle traffic, all of that is a grave concern. There are tons of wrecks at this intersection, Bell and Bond, all of the time. It seems to already be and I just echo what they said about the traffic, and it is traffic, but it's not just the traffic and the congestion. It is the residential and environmental concerns of having so many of, just repeats of the same type of business in our area. So noise, and also attracting people in at after hours, even 11 o'clock, that's almost midnight. So, and I also echo what Ms. Miles said about the upcoming high school that's going to be on Bell Road. There's going to be a lot of inexperienced drivers there, and left turns, as we know, people don't obey those signs about no left turns. And that concludes my concerns. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Charlene Boykin, the president of the Brighton Area Homeowners Association. We learned of this back, I think, in about January. I'm not sure about Bell Station saying that they had not been informed of it, but we were informed of it back in January. And we're not opposed to this station being there. We just had some concerns with some additional safety issues being put in place. Of course, we are not the engineers of Montgomery, and we would hope that they would be effective in doing their job to make sure that all of these other bases are covered if this gas station has an opportunity to go there. Now, we live in Brighton Estates, not in the Bell Station, and so just from driving, there's a lot of problems coming out of that old orchard even before this gas station came up. They mostly turn right coming out of there anyway. So if they're turning left, I mean, I can't say much about their driving capacity for that, but we're not opposed to it. There is only that one gas station that is on the corner, and it is helpful to have a variety of some things. We just ask that there be some safety measures put in, and that's why we were asking that there be a fence that is put in from the Bush Hill corner all the way down to the end of the store behind, and that the lights be put up there, and that it have the build up for the trees. So I would think that if they would look at it, the engineers would look at it and make the determining factor, we would be okay one way or the other, but we're not opposed to it coming in as long as those safety features are put in place for the Brighton Estates area that would actually be bagged up to it.
Thank you. All right.
If I may please just point out that the residents of Brighton Estates do have more than one entrance and exit to their to their neighborhood, while residents of Bell Station, this would be, the traffic flow of this would affect us more because everything coming in and out of our neighborhood is conjoined to this, or in proximity to this entrance on Bell.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Does someone have something different to say I think we've got the gist of what we're trying
Is
to
it
say.
different?
Yeah, go.
I just want to say, you know, Gasoline Alley used to be in the newspapers, and basically, when people moved into Bell Station, and we didn't hear about this, and I should tell you, Chris Foster, Bell Station HOA president, but we're having these new stations come in, and that means we've already got one that's a blight, the Valero station, just a block or two away. So now we get a Marathon station. Is that going to become a blight? And we do have, like I say, I concur with everything that's been said.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, does the traffic engineering, have they already said there's not a traffic issue in that area?
That's what they said.
Say they have no objections.
Said no objections.
I can't see it. Have they been out there?
I want to point out one other thing, and I maybe leave this alone, I think. But I'm just looking at all of these intersections, particularly when you get along Bell Road, the connection from this project to Bell Road and how close it is to the southernmost entrance to this gas station that's already there. You can see it a little bit better here. Where that red line comes out and touches Bell Road, and if you go up the page, I mean, that's awfully close to me. And with the comments that the people have made about the traffic along there and the problems that they've had without this being a new project, to me, something, James, I'm with you. I just don't understand how this has no objections when you've got these kind of touch points that don't seem to be addressed properly, in my opinion.
I agree.
They just don't seem to be addressed.
Go ahead, sir. State your name and
Go ahead.
comment.
My name is Bud Jones. I live at 6700 Carroll Court in the Brighton Estate neighborhood. I've been a resident there for over 20 years. I watched this neighborhood develop from Brewster's coming in, the Metro, Sturridge, Domino Pizza moving from Watchman over on Bell. So growth I have watched, and watch has been put in place. Now, this section of Brighton has not been developed for any more homes. It always been in our mind that it would be developed for business. So that's nothing new to our plan of what was going to happen there, as well as what we want to do to put in the safety measures that we was talking about. Now, for its traffic, and I understand that's a very concern with all of us, actually, this is going to be a better let-out spot than actually coming out on the service station that's already present from the road entrance coming out, because you are down the street further. Well, when we first got used to that, we used to have to still use Watchman to go out and catch Vaughn Road versus trying to go up and catch it. It was more safer to catch Watchman. The only thing I would think to be more considerate on where the entranceway is coming out on Vaughn Road would be to hopefully line it up with the entranceway coming out at the Brewster and the Metro Storage would only be the most helpful spot that would be helpful with that on that entranceway coming out. But for us shutting it off because of the entranceway coming out, I think the engineers can work around that, because it's going to be a better takeout to go back on either direction than it is that the service station we already have. Because the service station we already have, the only way you really can safely get out to get back on Vaughn Road to make a left would be to come to Bell Road and make the left. Trying to make it as they do come out that entranceway now, like they say the sign has been long put down, is difficult because you got to cut across too many lanes down where the turning lane part at. So if you move it back up here where we're talking about up here, you're actually in the part where the center lane comes into play for either way to turn traffic. So that's to me is the major point of the entranceway coming out up on Vaughn Road, because if you are not going into a one direction, you can go into a center turning lane. And so I'm not against that, as long as they are willing to protect our neighborhood privacy with the homes there and keep it safe. We want to make sure that we have Bush Hill Road not open for access to bring the traffic back through that direction. That's our concern. And to make sure the fence line goes down so we don't get the overflow of traffic from the church on Inverness, running the church property line down behind the homes. So we have to have that fence in place to keep the youth safe, because we don't want to have like a back alley thing that brings them into danger. That's our more safety concern, is to keep our youth. We have a very high home students capacity in that neighborhood. So that would be our most concern, would be to keep that fence line, so we don't have to address that later. I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're
going to call this to a...
one final thought. And I think what's going to happen is, if this is approved, is people are going to come down Vaughn, turn into the service station to avoid the light, and come onto Bell. And people coming up Bell are going to make the left turn to go into the service station to get on Vaughn to avoid the light. And I think that's going to be the issue. That's going to cause more traffic problems. I mean, it's going to do that. Okay.
Okay, we're going to call this to an end unless somebody else on the Planning Commission's got some other comment they want to make. If not, what I have heard from a bunch of concerned citizens, I'm just going to speak my piece right now, is that this had to go through a zoning process. Some of you may not have lived in the Brighton Estates at that time, or Bell Station, or whatever, but that's why we have the zoning hearings. When it gets to this stage, it's already been zoned, it's already been approved, the plat's got to be approved. If it hasn't been, I'm not sure. But that's the time to make your argument. When it's at the development plan stage, you're a little late. I appreciate your concerns and all of that, but we don't have much control over it at that point. So if you have concerns about this or any other item, make your comments at the zonings, and they are put out, and you know when they're held and whatever, or you should. Most developers that make these, that do this, they know they want to talk, and we pretty well encourage them to talk to the community at the zoning time before it gets to this place. This is a little bit late for this. This is a development plan, as it's a public hearing, but we don't have a vote on this. This is a public hearing. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming down here. But at this point, the development hearing has been held, and we appreciate your time here. Thank you. As far as the staff goes, I think you know on these last two that we've had that there are concerns from the community about these. If the traffic zoning, they have no comments about them. I'm not sure when they will ever have a comment about a zoning. I mean, about a development plan. So I think we've said it now. All right.
Very well said.
Thank you. Next item.
Item number 9 is presented by Flowers and White Engineering, representing Frank Thomas. It's a public hearing for development plan for a new building and a canopy located on the east side of Norton Bridge Road, across from the east end of from the east end of Hyundai Boulevard in a B2Q commercial district. This is a development plan and will not require a vote.
Good evening. I'm Kenneth White, Jr. with Flowers and White, representing Frank Thomas. I appreciate James. This is a development plan request for a convenience store to be placed on a proposed 4-acre lot on the east side of 331, right adjacent to Hyundai Boulevard. I can entertain any questions.
Anyone in the Planning Commission have any questions? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item?
What's going on the property? You know, have any idea?
I'm sorry.
What's going on the property? Do you have any?
It'll be a convenience store.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what's proposed.
All right. Any other comments? All right. This is a development plan. The development plan has been held. Thank you. The hearing has been held. Thank you.
The 10th item is presented by Flowers and White Engineering, representing Henry Franklin Thomas III. Request final approval of Hyundai Crossing Plat Number 1 on the east side of Norton Bridge Road across the east end of Hyundai Boulevard in a B2Q commercial zoning. This is a plat and will require a vote.
This is the piece of property that y'all just heard the development plan from. It's the 4-acre tract of land that we're carving out of a larger tract. Hyundai Boulevard, Hyundai Crossing Way will be a public road. That'll be extension of Hyundai Boulevard. I can entertain any questions.
Any questions from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, this requires a vote. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 11 is presented by J.M. Garrett and Son, representing Oak Hill Garden Offices on Berry Hill. Public hearing for development plan for a new building to be located at 1940 Berry Hill Road in an O1 office zoning district. This is a development plan and will not require a vote.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Garrett, and I represent Oak Hill Garden Office Building. It is a 9,000 square foot office with a one-way out on 10 Barn Lane and a one-way out onto Berry Hill. We have no comments that are negative from any of the departments, and that's about my presentation right there.
All right.
Frank, you say it's a one-way out on both of these intersections?
Right, there was one way out on 10 Barn and one way out on Berry Hill.
Help me understand what do you mean by that? I'm looking at the drawing, maybe I'm missing something. Where is it, how does it indicate one way in, one way out?
Well, it does not indicate that they are one-way streets. There is just an exit onto 10 Barn Lane and an exit onto Berry Hill.
I think he just means
There's a way in and out.
I think he just means an access to each.
There's also an entrance too.
Right, an entrance and an exit at both spots.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was trying to figure out the right. Frank, boy, you almost got me that time.
Yeah, it's a tough world out there.
I know it, man. I know it. So is there any reason? Well, no, it's not necessarily you, maybe. I don't know who it is, but we got the same issue. But I guarantee you the traffic people ain't got a problem with it. No objection.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Any other comments from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to make a comment? If not, this is a development plan, and there's no vote. Thank you. Okay. Next item.
Item number 12 is presented by J.M. Garrett and Son, representing Kaiser Properties LLC. Request final approval of Oak Hill Plat Number 1B located on the southwest corner of 10 Bar Lane and Berry Hill Road in an O1 office zoning. This is a plat and will require a vote.
What Oak Hill Garden Offices has to do is to combine two lots that are existing right now into one lot so that we can build this building on it. And that's what I ask, is that we can combine two lots into one lot and plat it.
All right. My only comment is thank goodness it's not a hotel or whatever else we've had on this area right in here. All right. Any questions from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to make a comment? If not, this calls for a vote.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? If not, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The 13th item is presented by the Broadway Group, representing the same. Request final approval of Montgomery Boylston Plat Number 1, located on the southeast corner of Lower Wetumpka Road and Alabama Road Parkway in a B2 commercial zoning district. This is a plat and will require a vote.
My name is Kelly Steele, and I'm with the Broadway Group, and
Move
we
the
are.
mic down.
Oh, sorry. I'm Kelly Steele and I'm representing the Broadway Group, and we are creating a 3.35 acre lot at the corner of Alabama River Parkway and Lower Wetumpka, and it also abuts Stratford Drive as well, as you can tell from the drawing.
All right. Is there any comment from the Planning Commission?
I had a question that, and I'm just going from my notes, so. Is there an access onto Lower Wetumpka?
Yes, there is. There will be. Is
But
that what
it's
you're
not
asking?
in
Are
the-
you asking currently, or will there be?
I'm sorry.
Are you asking currently, is there an access, or will there be an access?
No, I didn't see one in the drawing is what the reason I'm asking, will there, or did I miss it?
This is, well, for a plat, so I don't know that a driveway would be shown on the plat, proposed plat drawing. But we are going to have a driveway off of Lower Wetumpka and Stratford Drive.
Okay.
So what's going there?
A standalone retail store.
All right. Anyone in the audience wish to address this? Anybody else from the Planning Commission? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, this is a plat that does require a vote.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you.
14th item on the agenda is the Broadway Group LLC, representing the same. It's request final approval of TBG Lower Wetumpka Road, plat number 1, located on the southwest corner of Lower Wetumpka Road and Cedar Street in a B2 commercial zoning. This is a plat and will require a vote.
We're proposing the combination of 5 lots at the corner of Cedar Street and Lower Wetumpka Road to make one lot totaling 1.004 acres for a standalone retail store.
For a standalone what?
Retail store?
Okay, retail again, okay.
Not a service station. This is the gas station. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said it's not going to be a service station?
Not a service station.
That
Any
area
questions?
just to the north, that's that strip center, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
On Lower Wetumpka Road, the area just to the north, across Cedar, is that?
There is a strip, it's right across Cedar Street. There's a little strip center.
Okay, I've got the right spot, okay, I thought it was. Anyone on the Planning Commission wish to address this item? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, this is a plat, it requires a vote. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands, please. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The 15th item on the agenda is by Larry Speaks and Associates, representing Chevron Purple Cow. This is a public hearing for development plan for a new building and canopy to be located at 1220 Perry Hill Road in a B4 commercial zoning district. This is a development plan and will not require a vote.
Hey, good evening. I'm Paul McClendon with Larry Speaks and Associates, and on behalf of BFHK, we are presenting the development plan for a new Purple Cow Chevron gas station at 1220 Perry Hill Road. It's a 4,370 square foot convenience store building with a 6,359 square foot canopy out front. There are currently 4 entrances off of Interstate Court, we're eliminating one entrance, the one kind of in the curve back there on your plan, while retaining the other two and the one in the cul-de-sac in the back. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
So you're just moving the building, the convenience store back on the lot?
That's correct. It's going basically back to the second lot that they purchased a few years ago. That's right.
Well, the building that's there now is just basically a little kiosk, right?
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
the canopy on either side of the building.
This is going to be a full-fledged convenience store, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I do have some renderings if anybody'd like to see that.
Sure, let's see them.
All right.
Kip, yeah.
They were smart. They bought them with them.
Anybody else want to take a look at them?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Is there any comments from the planning commission members?
No, sir.
Okay, you're still. Is anyone in the audience while he's looking? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? Come forward. All right. All right. If there are no comments, let's see. This was a development plan, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Development plan, it doesn't require a vote, so thank you for your time, sir. Thank you.
He's got something else.
You got a
Item
plan.
16 is presented by Larry Speaks and Associates, representing BFHK LLC. Request final approval of BFHK LLC, plat number 1, located on the southwest corner of Prairie Hill Road in the Interstate Court in a B4 commercial zoning district. This is a plat and will require a vote.
And this is the same property in question. It's currently two separate lots that we're looking to replat into one. It's a replat of Lot 2, Standard Oil Company Plat Number 2, and Lot 1 of the replat of Lot 1, Standard Oil Company Plat Number 2. It's a total of 1.12 acres.
All right. Anyone on the planning commission have any questions? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? If not, this calls for a vote.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's going to present this? Now we can see you.
You can see me now.
That's right.
Very good.
Well, it's not so much that we can see you, they want to be able to hear you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Over there.
Good.
That's the main person that needs to hear you. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, good evening, first and foremost. Hopefully, we'll try to make this as painless as possible. Of course, we're the last one. Hopefully, we save the best for last. For those of you that don't know me, and I know most everybody here except Mr. Mantooth, but everybody else I'm very familiar with. I'm Robert Smith. I'm Director of Planning here at the City of Montgomery. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you this evening. My department in the Department of Planning has had the responsibility of directing and managing the overall development of the city's comprehensive plan, which is called Envision Montgomery 2040. I want to personally thank you all as planning commissioners for the jobs that you do in the city, ensuring that every land planning decision that gets made is the best one and the right one for all the land on the ground in the city of Montgomery and in the city's planning jurisdiction, because it is a tough job that you all have, as you've seen tonight with some of the cases that you've had to deal with. Our primary reason for being here this evening is to present the final draft, updated and redone comprehensive plan, Envision Montgomery 2040 comprehensive plan. We've had significant input in our planning process. Well over 1,000 citizens have weighed in, either through our community summit, which we had nearly 600 people, residents attend, over at Alabama State University, our open house, in which we had right here in City Hall, right where we are right now. We had 300 plus people attend that particular meeting right here in City Hall, as we had the open house to present the comprehensive plan. Or people have attended either through city council district meetings, in which we had a meeting for each of the 9 city council districts, or they've either participated via email or mail or through our website, which is envisionmontgomery2040.org. That citizen input has garnered well over 3,000 comments and ideas that have been basically input into the planning process that we've been undertaking over now since February of 2018, so roughly about 2 years. Just briefly, a comprehensive plan is a long-term guide for future physical development of a city that considers input of citizens, businesses, and other stakeholders, and covers a period of a course of 20 years. It includes recommendations for future land use, community design, connectivity, open space, and recreational areas, cultural and historical resources, infrastructure, and economic development. This has been a huge opportunity that we've had in developing and preparing our first comprehensive plan for the city of Montgomery in over 55 years. So 55 years since the last comprehensive plan was prepared and developed. And to give you the exact point in time, we're 57 years because we've been 2 years in this process, and so it was 55 years when we started. Great cities, they just don't happen. They're well planned, and good, meaningful planning facilitates and guides what happens basically on the ground. I'd like to also thank the mayor and city council for agreeing to fund our comprehensive plan effort that's been going on. This is probably one of the best investment decisions that they could have made in agreeing to fund the update of this plan and redo of this plan. I'd also like to recognize our Envision Montgomery 2040 Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, in which you probably have seen that if you cruised through the plan, you've seen we've had roughly about a 50-person steering committee. One of your members, Mr. Hardwick, he represented the Industrial Development Commission via the steering committee. Lastly, I want to reiterate that the Envision Montgomery 2040 Comprehensive Plan, again, it's the first plan of its kind in nearly half a century. It will propel Montgomery boldly into its next chapter of growth and development for over the next 20 years. And now it's time to see for you all to see how our citizens' ideas and comments and good professional planning, development, judgment have basically come to life, and see how that will basically shape Montgomery over the next 20 years. Now I'd like to introduce a member of our planning consulting team, Mr. Kyle May, who's a senior planner with the urban planning consulting firm Planning Next. Kyle will present our final draft 3.0 version of our comprehensive plan, Envision Montgomery 2040. Just last few brief statements. The city contracted with through a competitive procurement selection process with Planning Next rising to the top and being selected. They're under contract for the amount of $358,000 to basically do all of the work that they have done, and they are the primary consultant, and there are a host of sub-consultants that have been involved. One last side note, Montgomery is not the only city that Planning Next has done work with in the state of Alabama. Of course, they're based in Columbus, Ohio, but they've done work in the city of Tuscaloosa, the city of Decatur, the city of Anniston, city of Mobile, and I think they just signed a contract with Baldwin County Commission to prepare a comprehensive plan for Baldwin County. And this has all basically been comprehensive planning work that they've been doing in updating or redoing those particular areas that I've mentioned where they're doing work at right now. And they are doing some repeat work on the back end. That's actual implementation from the comprehensive plans, doing some things like zoning ordinance and subdivision regulation rewrites so that plan can actually be implemented on the ground. So with further ado, I'll turn it over to Kyle May, who's going to take you through a short presentation of the comprehensive plan, and after that, we'll entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, commissioners, for having us here this evening to consider the plan. As Robert mentioned, my name is Kyle May. I'm a senior planner with Planning Next. It's a pleasure to be back. Very grateful for this opportunity over the last 2 years to really get to know your very special city in a pretty intimate way, all 160 plus square miles of it through the work. It's been a real honor, and thank you for this opportunity. As Robert mentioned, and I'm going to try to shorten my presentation up a little bit. I know we're 17 out of 17, so I don't want to keep y'all too long, but it's been a long road to planning for 2040. Our first meeting, February 22nd, 2018, that's over 850 days ago. But in that time, we've done a lot of work. When you do this work correctly, it's not easy, it's not simple, it's not done in a room with a closed door, it's done in conversation, in difficult conversation at times. Hundreds of hours in our case to build this plan, thousands of pages of reporting. I know the plan is heavy unto itself, but trust that there's a mountain of paperwork below that, whether it's the community fact book, strategic analysis memos, or hundreds of other documents that we've referenced and worked with throughout the plan. But also, dozens of community meetings as part of this. Robert mentioned that this was always intended to be an inclusive, open, transparent, and collaborative process, not just with the leadership, not just with stakeholders, but with the community overall. 11 steering committee meetings along that process, 20 plus community meetings across the 160 plus square miles, and 35 focus group discussions squeezed in as well. Lots of work, and to prove how long this has been, that guy on the screen didn't exist when we started this work. That's my son, Owen T. May. With the Alabama. So I saw an Auburn thing, so I'm sorry about that, just off the jump. But the road to 2040, as I mentioned, really had two paths that were close, parallel paths, but two paths nonetheless. One was really engaging the community. You see that one on the top, preparing for engagement, listening and learning. Our community summit along that path, the primary event over at the Acadome, which I see a lot of you were actually at that event. I'm thanking you for being there. And then most recently, the open house, where we packed this room and asked the community to tell us where their priorities were on that long list of potential actions, recommendations that emerged through the process. But on the bottom, you also see that when you do this work, you've got to bring in a lot of analysis. And when you've not done it in 50 years, there's a strong foundation that needs to be set. So we did a lot of analysis through this. First at a baseline, understanding what was really going on in Montgomery, just a high level, and then zooming in with the strategic analysis, looking at things like housing, neighborhoods, land use, economic development, mobility, and many others. And you finally see we start to draft this plan. Parallel paths start to meet, and we get to where we are today, 251 pages developed by the people of Montgomery. 1,300 participants in total contributed to this plan, and that's unique participants over its duration, 15 plus months of just planning. 20 priority projects based on that open house, 6 chapters and topics, focus groups, 100 plus action proposals, but really one vision, to lead Montgomery forward. That was critical. That was our charge, to find something that this community agrees to aim for. And that one vision is what every action recommendation, every goal is pointing toward. You know, comprehensive view is just that. When you do this work, you start from a high vantage point. And I hope you'll excuse the fact that when you do comprehensive planning, sometimes you reveal more questions than you do answers. But that's just because you've looked. And it really is a good thing. As Robert mentioned, you know, great communities do planning and they do it on an ongoing basis. So that top of the mountain view that we've revealed through this work, while it does reveal a full scene, there may be an opportunity in the future to dig in deeper and to understand some of these questions further. And Robert's staff, steering committee are proud of that. They're proud of having revealed that. And one other point that I really wanted to highlight here, that we didn't start from scratch. Even though this community had not done a comprehensive plan in 50 plus years, you had done a lot of great planning, both at a neighborhood level, within downtown, thinking about different sectors. So we built on top of that work, not adjacent to it. And I think hopefully you see that reflected in some of the ways we describe neighborhoods, the way we described your unique downtown. I'll quickly run through this just as an organization of the plan. You all have seen the structure, but the vision is important to me because it rides above everything. It's supported by some pillars around goals, measurable objectives, and last but not least, these actions, recommendations. And we wrote these in the plan, the steering committee. It was important that these were projects or policies or programs, but something that discrete, that we can check off, that we can make progress on and move the community toward that vision there at the top. There were 6 of these topics, these goals that emerged through the work, really collecting up a lot of the original 12 topics that we were charged with analyzing and researching. Great places, people, housing, neighborhoods, assets and amenities, our connections, prosperity, and our foundation. Those started to pull together a number of the topics that we researched through the work, and as you'll see, 111 action proposals in total that are organized within those 6 large buckets. Probably if you were at the open house, you may have seen this. I just wanted to give you a little bit of sense of the path, because I showed you those 2 parallel paths that came together with the analysis and with the engagement. Well, this is how this worked with the recommendations. We revealed some major opportunities and challenges. We asked the community about those things, and then we did some more focused team research to understand some of those questions a little bit better, bring in some best practices or invent them out of whole cloth for Montgomery, and develop out a set of plans, strategies, or recommendations. And you'll see those dots are different sizes because the actions are different sizes. Some of them are massive. They're transformational projects. They're expensive projects. They're generational. Some of them are things that you should start tomorrow. They're small, but they have a potential for an impact as well. We gathered those things together. We developed a draft. We worked with our steering committee. Most importantly, we worked with the community in this room to understand where their priorities were. I mentioned those 20. Those 20 are reflected by their voting, not just in this room, but also in 9 council districts that we took the plan out to. And then I come to you today in the process of adopting this final package, this plan, and everything that it encapsulates in the 2 years of work. So we start back in February, meeting number 1, Robert doing a similar presentation to here we are today with what is in front of you. A lot of great moments along the way at the Acadome. One of my favorites, absolute highlight, I think, throughout all this was Alabama State Marching Band very loudly kicking us off there at the Acadome, if you remember, if you were there, and all the activities associated with that. I have to include this slide because this slide was fairly powerful in our work. This is you've probably seen word clouds before. This mills through all the data that was part of your database of 5,000 comments and tries to pull out, these sentiments around what do you want to see Montgomery look like in 2040? What is your vision? These words that come to the top, I think, describe Montgomery that I've come to know quite well. Unified, educated, progressive, vibrant, equal, hopeful, all those sorts of words, prosperous. My goals for you in this plan moving forward is that you treat this really as a movement, as opposed to a document you close, you say you're finished. A good plan, the ones we've seen, are aspirational. They reach far, they reach high. They reflect the community of values, the people that are here today. They're impactful, they're measurable, they're realizable, and last but not least, I highlight this on purpose because they're sticky and they're scalable. We hope that with Envision that it doesn't end with the adoption, but rather it becomes a movement for this community moving forward, and these actions become a rallying cry, not just within City Hall, but more broadly. as well. As we talk about some of the specific actions within the document, I won't belabor this too much, but needless to say that, as I mentioned, there are different scales of actions throughout the work. There are those that we would call maybe early wins, small actions but can light the fire of this movement. Those that are more catalytic, that can make a fairly large impact, a little bit more resources reserved for those as well. And last, there are some of those generational projects within here that we really believe could start this movement and lead Montgomery, take a leap forward as opposed to a step, and really help you move toward realizing that vision. They aren't cheap. They require a lot of collaboration, but they have an outsized ability to transform this community over time. And some highlights from the plan. As I mentioned, there's 100+ actions that are part of this program, and there ought to be. You haven't done this in a while. Montgomery's a big place. It's a dynamic place. It's a diverse place. Trying to squeeze that into a small plan was always going to be a difficult charge on our part. So what I wanted to do here is just pull out a couple that I thought have the potential to make a fairly large impact, really starting year one. This idea of the future land use plan is a fundamental component of comprehensive planning. And I want to make sure we draw a distinction here. This is not a zoning map. This is not legally binding, but this is a high-level, 168 square mile recommendation on where you could be in the future. It takes into account all the goals around economic development. It considers community development, opportunities, all those sorts of things, and starts to put that down onto the map of Montgomery and the way that could be articulated through development types in the future. It's accompanied by something that's critically important for this community, which is a development code update, subdivision regulations along with that, and other regulatory tools, which help to join some of your Alabama big cities in updating some of those fundamental tools for your use. You'll see the paint by numbers map that planners love as part of our pages within the plan. But within each of these colors, a little bit different than a typical land use map, we've tried to go into depth about the character of these districts. So rather than it just be about massing or just being about parking or accessibility, we go into a little bit about what makes the downtown and the core neighborhoods a little different, a little special, and how they could be enhanced. And throughout this plan, you'll also see references to some districts that Montgomery might not have today, but could, and indeed perhaps should, in the future if it's going to take advantage of some of the emerging things we see in the new economy, if it's going to lift some other folks in the neighborhoods out of their current state. Another action that I'm quite excited about is around this possibilities neighborhood. In every conversation we had in Montgomery, neighborhoods were of utmost importance. 200+ identified in this community. We really wanted to make that a highlighted element here. But we know as planners and folks that do this around the country that you can't copy and paste neighborhood initiatives. And if you do, there's a high fail rate. What we became clear in this work is that a Montgomery neighborhood initiative need to be designed here and implemented here. And that's why the Possibilities Neighborhood Program is so exciting to me. It's about experimenting in one of your important neighborhoods, seeing what will work here, maybe what won't work here, and developing a playbook that you can go out and take to the 200+ neighborhoods to implement. Other items I thought were quite important around street design typology, a complement to your character and land use update, developing a downtown plan. You have been in downtown. I've been in downtown now quite a bit. There's been a tremendous transformation that's happening there, and there's an opportunity to go from 1.0 to 2.0, to take that plan, to update that plan more in a business-looking sense, and to really enhance that district and take it to the next level, and leverage all that progress that's been made to date. And speaking of to date, moving forward toward 2040, implementation in a process like this, as we see it, is an ongoing piece of work. It's a continuation, really, of this work. The stamp in the corner there, the insignia for Montgomery, I hope that we see that throughout the future as projects are implemented, but it really is a cycle. And it begins with reviewing the progress you've made to date, evaluating that, reporting on outcomes, informing a budgetary planning, and thinking about things like capital improvement project and how you move forward, how you make room for this. All these things are critically important to you, as well as having some governance and some structure around making sure that you are making progress in the future. And with that, I ask, not necessarily the commissioners here, because you're already playing a very active role, but this question is more for the community, I think, within Montgomery. Is everyone, in the way this plan has been written, I believe has a role in one part or multiple parts of these actions. And we hope that everyone sees that and asks themselves this question about what role they'll play in the implementation of Envision Montgomery 2040. And with that, I thank you very much, and I'll be happy to field any questions.
Thank you for not doing your long presentation. I thought that little kid at the beginning was Nick Saban as a child.
He's getting recruited, mostly by Ohio State, though.
Kyle, you mentioned, and I thought it was interesting the words you used. You mentioned to make a goal of one vision. And do you think you reached that goal?
Yes, sir. The vision is possibly the hardest part, I think, of a process like this. It's hard to put into words, let alone a sentence or two, what a community sees, for its future, its ideal future state. That's probably the one item that we spent the most time, I think, going back and forth on, and not because it's frivolous, not because it's small, but because it was so important, I think, to just about informing everything else within this plan. When I say that those pillars, those goals are outgrowths of that vision, I do mean that. We try to tie everything back to that statement. And how will this action get you closer to that state, in 20 years from now? 20 years is ambitious, I will say, given some of the challenges that we see, in Montgomery that we've outlined here. But we think that a process like this is repeatable, right? I think that evaluation is really critical, and not just evaluation of the actions, but also the vision statement itself. 5 years, 10 years down the line, you need to look back on that statement and say, is this who we truly intend to be? And that's a critical importance.
And you just brought up one other point, a question that I had in Robert's laying out for this meeting. It stated in there that we would revisit, for lack of a better term, 5 to 10 years. And, for old people, 10 years is a long time.
Right.
So 5 years seems to be, is there any, is there a 5 or is there a 10, or what makes the determination?
5 tends to be the standard, I think, for a city your size. Just because there is so much movement, so much dynamism. You think about those 110 plus actions, you're going to have a lot of those checked off in 5 years if we do our work right and we lay this out properly. So the update for me is more about looking back and evaluating the progress you've made or lack thereof. There may be some actions we revisit and say that's been a false start. We've not been able to get traction. It combined the wrong partners. So it's really an opportunity to start setting a regular pattern for yourselves where 5, you're evaluating action that's been taken. 10, you're really looking back and looking at that land use map, looking at some of the bigger items. And on the 20-year horizon, that's when a lot of the rewrites happen. That's when a lot of the recycles happen, at least around the southeast and the plans we've worked on.
Will y'all be still involved when this is turned over to the final version turned over? Will y'all still be available for consultation, and is that part of the package, Robert?
Well, it's not a part of the package, but we are going to recommend retaining them on the implementation side to handle some of those very important key issues.
Right.
And it's similar to what they're doing down in Mobile and Tuscaloosa right now. And back to your 5 to 10 year, in your resolution that I had given to Tanya, if y'all approve this, it says in the resolution that the comprehensive plan will be updated at a minimum of every 5 to 5 years minimum, 10 years maximum. So we don't have, so we don't go 55 years, before we.
Is that the resolution that we're going, is that what you're suggesting using?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Well, if you're going to do that, let me make a couple of comments.
Absolutely. It's not set in stone, and it's wide open for interpretation.
And this is just a personal thing from some of this. In there, you talked about the decision-making term, and I'd rather see something like serves as a guide.
Okay.
And you remember what happened to us over on Fairview.
Correct.
And we
smart code.
We trapped ourselves in concrete. So what
Sure.
we did, and then when you had projects come along, and that's the reason
they didn't fit.
I'd rather see that, and the term not primary reference. Let me see. Rather, leave the word primary out and just say referencing to.
Okay.
That's some of my notes.
Gotcha. We'll consider that for sure.
All I'm trying to do is keep it where it's not so rigid in there, and that's kind of the way I felt it was. So.
Well, I mean, we kind of felt like primary reference tool. I mean, it is typically what most cities use as their primary reference tool for, how land is and property is developed. So, and even given some of the problems that y'all have seen tonight with gas stations and access and all that kind of stuff, you really do need a primary reference guide that, to go about how doing some of these things. And so that's why, I used such a strong, word in primary, but, we can adjust that.
It's just my 2 cents.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Kyle and Robert, for your hard work. This is quite an ambitious plan, but certainly is an impressive plan. So I would say look forward to. I guess I could be. There are some centenarians in the world, so perhaps I'll be around when this is all
You'll be around.
You'll be here.
But thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Let me mention that I read this pretty thoroughly, and I am most impressed by the data that went into this and all the hard work that went into I'm somewhat disappointed in the recommendations. I felt like they were much too general, and I will specifically mention education. Education was the #1 priority per your list, and all the recommendations that I saw was just work with the school system. There's got to be more to it than that. I mean, y'all can make recommendations better than that. And that's,
yes, sir.
That's my real problem with it, as far as preschool and whatever.
Sure.
All you said was have a meeting with people involved. That there's more to that. This looks too cut and dried and too. Look, you could have taken Tuscaloosa's and said pretty much the same thing. Put Montgomery's data in there. And your objectives are to work with people. Well, yeah, that is our objective.
Sure.
But I didn't see much specific recommendations specifically on the biggest issue that hits Montgomery right now, and that's our school systems.
Yes. Yeah.
And I do think there should have been more work with the school systems to come up with specific recommendations as to what you're going to do, and
sure.
Other than just work with them.
Well, and yes, sir, and of course, outside of, about the only thing we can really work with them is really physical assets, land and buildings, but not necessarily policies. The city doesn't have any control over the school system. The school system has its own separate, board of education, which is elected to represent the citizens within the county. So that's really about as far as we can go, even though it was something that people, they mentioned as an issue or problem.
Biggest issue, and all you said was work with the school system.
Yeah. Frank, I agree with you. I can appreciate the hard work. It's a lot of work that's gone into this. Everybody's been patting you on the back, giving you attaboys, but I'm sorry. I think there's more work that needs to be done along the recommendation side. I just see a heavy emphasis placed on more details about how we deal with downtown, but this is a Montgomery plan. You even talk about how to deal with downtown by establishing some kind of design committee that reviews all of this stuff for downtown. Well, why isn't that same level of involvement for the entire city.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're not talking about providing some kind of design review committee for North Montgomery. I mean, why is there such a heavy emphasis on downtown when this is supposed to be a Montgomery plan? I really have a problem with that, seriously. And I mean, through all of my reading, I hadn't seen where you drill down on anything else that specific other than downtown. Matter of fact, the presentation tonight was heavily related to downtown. I'm not asking for an answer because it's not there. But the other thing that I'm really, this is a time when we've got some issues in this country that really is causing a lot of us to come together, and in some cases it's taking people and moving them apart. So I want to get a real good understanding of what you mean with paragraph AA 3.2, develop a race and ethnicity portal. I kind of want to understand what that means and as it relates to this city moving forward, because the dynamics have changed here, and I don't want to make sure, I want to make sure I understand where you're going with this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. If I could, just 3 quick responses. The first response regarding education, because you're absolutely right, Commissioner Cook, that was an absolutely critical issue within this work. One of the things that we come up against when we're doing a comprehensive plan, which is a bit of a limitation, is the purview of what City Hall, what the city can actually get done. And through so many of our conversations, that was such a critical issue. And the way we sought to address that within the plan, rather than writing recommendations specifically for groups that were outside of City Hall in this case, was to think about livability, to think about the attractiveness of Montgomery neighborhoods and reinvesting in those neighborhoods to raise property value and increase it from that end. So the diagram that I have up on the screen gives some sense about how some of the actions actually get thought about within the work, those things which we can control, meaning the city can control, those things which we can influence, which a lot of the educational issues were in that territory where we could work with partners around the community to try to affect change, but not necessarily out of the center. And those issues that are perhaps just outside of this community's control that we only could highlight within the plan, there were quite a few of those as well. And Commissioner Tate, I apologize, I wanted to address that piece. Your note on downtown. Quickly, I know you didn't ask for an answer, but I'm going to give a very brief one because downtown was a critical issue here just because it is such a profound asset to this community. Most of your historic assets are clustered within downtown. It is the core, it is the heart of this community, but it's not the whole community. You're right, 168 square miles plus. This is a very large community. I mentioned the 200 plus neighborhoods. I believe that Possibilities neighborhood is an absolutely critical action. That's why I highlighted it. I didn't highlight it in a secondary sense because it's smaller. That's a very, very important action for this community, and it's a way of pulling this plan outside of the downtown, the 1.5 or 2 square miles of downtown, and into the broader neighborhoods within the community. And Commissioner, your final point, your question, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
No, we're going to deal with what we just talked about.
You raised an equity portal. I'm sorry.
See, here's my problem. You said that downtown is profound. Well, I happen to think that North Montgomery is profound. I happen to think that West Montgomery is profound. I happen to think that, I'm just using these as examples to say such a heavy emphasis. You're going into the second round of downtown when some areas hadn't had the first look. That's where I'm concerned because I don't think this plan addresses the entire city of Montgomery to the same degree that you're putting emphasis on downtown. I go back. In the historic aspect, downtown's historic, you got a history in Sheridan Heights.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just using that as an example. The next example I want to give you is I can see where the attention's been because of the words and the length of the words. Because in this AA 2.2, you talk about developing a design committee of design professionals. So that means that you're about to take this kind of exercise to another level, that if you're not a design professional, you can't be involved in the work that you want the review committee to do for downtown. But why isn't that same emphasis placed on West Montgomery with the same kind of people planning and reviewing West Montgomery?
Well, Commissioner Tate, if I could respond to that, I think one thing that's really important to say about the comp plan, which is a great opportunity, is that what we've developed here is really a menu of potential projects and programs and policies. It's not a checklist, meaning that it's not a list that can't be added to. It's not a list that can't be reviewed. I do believe that there are quite a number of actions within here that really do respond to the greater need outside of downtown, especially some of the lower income neighborhoods all across the board within Montgomery. I think that is paid special attention throughout the plan. It's not explicitly called out because there are so many various types of neighborhoods across Montgomery. But really quickly, because you asked a question about the race and ethnicity portal, because this is important to me, this is something that actually Durham, North Carolina developed, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, as a way of tracking and pointing out change within minority groups within Durham. It's been an important tool for them as they think about equity issues, they think about these planning issues, neighborhood issues that you bring up. Having that data that's updated in an ongoing way has been very, very critical to them. And I thought something that could be adapted within the Montgomery context.
I mean, is that a tool that you would use for what, though? For planning, for economic development?
It's just that. It's a tool. It could be used for multiple things. It's an ongoing data portal that, in this case, one of the questions that we received a lot, especially from neighborhood groups, is to look at our data not just in terms of the pillar, not just in terms of all of Montgomery, but how it breaks down for different groups. The poverty rate is compared for different minority groups, the educational attainment for recent Montgomery residents versus long-time Montgomery residents. We were asked to parse the data in a number of ways, and what I like about the race and ethnicity portal is it allows you to do that on an ongoing basis. So you can see how the community may be responding to some of the interventions that you're testing out. Things like the possibilities neighborhood. You can see if you're starting to bend the arc on some of those trends that you don't like within a certain group, whether it's about poverty rate, attainment, those sorts of things. So I think that's a pretty important tool, but it's a multi-use tool.
I hear you, but my only thing is I'm not clear. I hear you explaining it. Explaining it sometimes is fine, but this is a document, as somebody said, as a primary guide, and so your explanation is not in the document. You see what I'm trying to get you to understand? So when you leave and Robert has to administer this thing, he's going to forget about what you just said, and he's going to go by what's in the book because he's going to tell me, well, it's in the book, that's what I got to go by. So I'm
not going to forget.
Well, but my point is, this is a very complex issue.
It is.
That if you just look at the amount of words you put in AA 3.2 versus the amount of words you put in AA 2.2, that shows me a priority right there. There ain't no design professionals or people at that level dealing with AA 3.2. But you got design professionals dealing with downtown, but not North Montgomery.
Well, to be fair, Commissioner, if we're judging on a word count, I don't think that's quite appropriate.
I'm just simply
there is
saying,
an entire sidebar devoted to that particular item, and I do believe that it's important, and I do believe it's something.
But see, my point to you is, I don't want to fuss with you. I'm just simply saying I disagree with how you're parsing this to me tonight, because, well, maybe if we would have some interaction way before now, maybe we could have gotten some clarity before you asked me to vote for it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner.
Because I think this is the second time we've ever talked about this. At least some people up here have probably been involved with this for a longer time, but I dare say that, I don't know, some of these other folks may not have maybe seen it for the second time, which is my second time seeing this.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I have a quick question, and maybe I missed the answer to it. Every 5 or 10 years, will you review it? Will you set milestones for that time and then review it, or will you just, we kind of go and see where we are at 5 and then adjust fire and for the next 5 and go like? How do you plan to go? 5 years.
The update is an important moment, I think, and you could really design this in a way that works best for Montgomery and the action agenda that you land on. I think what's really critical here, and you see this as reflected on page 236 and within the implementation matrix, is some of these management and governance actions. This idea of developing some indicators, I think, is a really critical item here. Thinking about how we do measure progress. And within that 5-year update, what you have a chance to look at is some of the data around, for instance, the race and ethnicity portal that the Commissioner just brought up over here, looking where you have made progress, not just within the actions, but also within some of these trends that we sought to change within the plan. So the 5-year update can do a number of things for you. You can update your conditions and trends research to say the progress you've made. You can look back on actions and say that those ones that we've made progress on are completed. You can even add new actions at that moment to say there's other things that have come up that are critical to us. There's been a major development that's happened just over the last 4 months within the world, that changes the way we look at things. Yeah. While we tried to think about that within the context of plan, the impacts of that are still occurring. Yeah. We can't plan for that right now. But it's important that in 5 years, we look back on that moment and think about how that affected Montgomery and its communities. And how can we be better prepared for that in the future or respond to the impacts we may still be feeling. Is that fair, Commissioner?
Yeah, I understand.
And just to add, also, we do a census once every 10 years, and those population and demographic numbers change, and so we definitely need to change based on that as well.
Right. True.
Kyle, when y'all leave, not tonight, but Montgomery, Rob, and this is a question for Robert too. Who's the guy that when there is a question, going back to Kippy's comment, who's in Montgomery are you going to be, Robert?
Yes, sir.
You're the head man for this?
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah. With their input, I assume. In other words, you'd still have connections.
Absolutely.
You could pick up the telephone and call.
Or email or whatever.
What did we mean so-and-so when we said such and such? Yeah.
Yes.
Kip and I had a little conversation earlier, and I don't know if everyone else feels this way, but I'm kind of playing off of what he said the second time he's seen this. I really would like for us to have, and I think he would like this too, maybe another session or two like this, because give us an opportunity and give everybody else here an opportunity to go through it and maybe have some questions. I think there has been some pretty good questions that Kyle, you've done, both of y'all have done a wonderful job answering. But we're going to know more 3 months from now about what didn't work maybe and what really did work. And I just think, the problem we have on the Plan Commission is we're left out of a lot of stuff. I mean, we got decisions we're supposed to make, but the truth of the matter is a lot of times we don't even know what we're doing. I mean, we don't know why.
That shouldn't be the case, though.
There's going to be a whole lot of that here. So anyway, my comment is, it'd be nice to have some more sessions of this.
Well, Buddy, since you kind of handed the baton to me, I agree with you and with your presentation that maybe I'm not necessarily saying that there's a problem with the document. I agree with you. They've done a lot of hard work, and it appears that a lot of good work. But I've just got a little unrest at this point, not necessarily with this session tonight, but I'd like to have some way of having a little bit more dialogue, because I've got a lot more questions, and I'm sorry you were the last one up, and we could keep it, I could keep it here, everybody else may leave.
Where am I going?
But I just think that this body deserves a little bit more conversation about this document, because it does take us out to 2040. And yes, you will be around. So Ann needs to know, because she's going to be here. And, that's just my opinion. Now, of course, I'm with this group. Whatever they decide, we decide, I'm going to go with it. But I'm just simply saying that I really think that we need a little bit more conversation about this, in my opinion, so that we can cast an honest, good vote, informed vote that's going to take us for the next 20 years.
I thank you, Kippy. I appreciate that too. If taking a look at the various neighborhoods. My husband and I walk the neighborhoods often, since we're not doing the gym anymore. So we do a lot of walking in the neighborhoods, and it's amazing the beauty in the neighborhoods, and they're all a different flavor. And if there's some way of being able to spend some time in either focusing or providing even the gateways to the communities, funding should be given. I know there's a way to do that, but I understand exactly where he's coming from in terms of there's a lot of more beauty throughout the city of Montgomery in various neighborhoods. That neighborhood that's over there on the other side of Lilly Baptist Church, I know the name. I'm not a Montgomery native, so a lot of these neighborhoods I don't know the names of, but there's so many different nooks and crannies in Montgomery, so that, you know, people will be aware of, and I'm in tourism, so I mean, I have groups coming before COVID came, and they would ask me, where are all the people? So, well, they don't live downtown. Where do they live? You know, so they're really interested in what a neighborhood looks like in Montgomery. So, yeah.
Neighborhoods are the building block of community, right? They are the fundamental element of what makes Montgomery Montgomery. And that throughout this plan, and if it needs to be intensified, perhaps it should, that's what we've sought to focus on. Because if Montgomery is to succeed, that begins in the neighborhoods. It doesn't necessarily begin in downtown, it begins in the neighborhoods. And there's a lot of opportunity there, but there's also a lot of disparity there. You know, there's a lot of difference between these places. And I think part of the ways we try to respond to that is understand what's really going to work in Montgomery to affect change. Not every community needs it as urgently, but every community certainly does have value, and that's a critical point.
You know, and I would say this to you along those same lines. That's why I think we have to get in and explore these areas to understand them to the same degree that you understand downtown. I doubt if you can go to Woodcrest and tell me the same types of details about Woodcrest as you can about downtown. And I'm just using Woodcrest as an example. But yet and still, I see where you want to develop a slavery to civil rights trail in downtown Montgomery. I know why. I know a little bit of the history of why that's relevant to downtown, but could some of these historical features, elements, components be spread around downtown so that people in Ann's business can take folks around the entire city versus the same usual historic features downtown? Because I promise you, once you look at Montgomery as a whole, and I grew up here, I can tell you, and people who can tell you more about Montgomery than I can show you some other areas where these types of ideas about civil rights trails and other significant civil rights or historical events took place, and a lot of them didn't take place in downtown. But I don't want to leave this conversation saying that I hate downtown, because that's not true. I'm simply saying look beyond downtown, because this is not a downtown 2040 comprehensive plan. This is a Montgomery comprehensive plan. I'm asking a little broader than just downtown with that level of detail.
May I say something at the risk of not making friends or at the risk of anything? I mean, I understand the concerns that my colleagues have, but I think for us to hold this up, I really think we're being unfair. I mean, some of the issues that was just discussed should have been discussed at some of those meetings. I mean, some of those community meetings and some of those, the one at Alabama State and all of that. But I think
they were.
Yeah, but I think it's unfair for us to hold this back and not vote on it and not approve it, because, you know, just like you said, you know, we really don't control anything anyway. Just like the people in here today, you know, they have the public hearings and people don't like it. What do we do? So my point is, I don't think we should hold it up. I think we should vote on it. I think we should approve it or disapprove it or whatever, and then let it go. Let it go to the next level, the mayor or city council or whoever, and then let's just proceed. Because we can take it apart for the next year, to be honest with you. Somebody's going to disagree with for the next year.
I want to make sure that I didn't come across that way. I'm not even suggesting holding it up.
Well, that's what I said. You know, I don't want to.
I'm suggesting that once we approve it or whatever we're going to do, that we do have some other sessions.
Yeah.
So we can definitely do that. Yes, sir. Yeah. We can hold as many. I mean, it's a living and breathing document,
right?
Which means that it can be changed if there's anything that anybody sees that they don't like that needs to be changed.
And I don't know, Kippy, I'm not speaking for you at all, but I don't know how you feel about that, but he had a valid point.
So I'm thinking the downtown emphasis is more based on the tax base, hotels,
Yeah, I mean,
making everything go.
the most important place, the most important place, and I'll let Kyle expand on this, the most important place in any city is its downtown, which is its nucleus. Without a good downtown, you don't have a good city. I mean, and that's just the bottom line. That doesn't mean that no other area is less important than downtown, but downtown is important for the viability of the whole entire city of Montgomery as a whole. And that's just the fact that is common, you know, in all 200 cities across the state of Alabama.
I think we risk getting flowery here, but as I think of downtown as a concept within Montgomery, I feel like there are these distinct neighborhoods, there are these places that you are from, but that downtown in its purest and best form should be everyone's neighborhood. It should be the center of the community. And you think about Montgomery's growth and development over the years. For a long time, that was the extent, of this community. It's only recently that we explode to this massive footprint farther out to the east. So much of the history of Montgomery, it's not, Commissioner, to say those other places aren't important. It's just that so much of that history is clustered in downtown. That's why it gets perhaps a little bit of emphasis within the Plan Commission. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So what do y'all want us to do tonight, Robert? What's the, what?
Well, I have a comment, though.
Okay.
I have a comment because the more I listen, I guess maybe, I'm not saying that I had to be involved in any of it, but I heard someone say that the information on the various neighborhoods was collected, right?
Sure.
Well, it's not reflected. So you got the information from West Montgomery, but it's not reflected in here based on the time that I think you spent out there.
Well, I disagree with that, Commissioner, in the sense that it may not be explicitly called out. Each neighborhood may not be explicitly called out within the plan. However, all that information is part of a broader livability concept that runs as a thread throughout every one of those chapters, every 6 of those chapters. That's critically important. Now, if you want to zoom in at a neighborhood level and conduct a planning operation at a neighborhood level, you have a history of doing that. You've done some great neighborhood plans over the last 10 and 15 years. And I think that's a legacy you can continue as an implementation effort within this plan.
I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Centennial Hill. There's a Centennial Hill plan, right?
Correct.
Does Centennial Hill look any different now than it did when you did the plan?
No, sir.
That's my point.
Well, I mean, with the exception of, old 2-lane court. That's probably the most different that it looks since that point in time. But,
well, let me say this,
just like with anything else, it's got to be made a priority.
I got a stack of these in my library at home right now. I can go and pull them out. And I bet you do too, buddy. Or somebody else up here. And I don't see, we spend time with that. That's one of the things that when people at least come up to me or maybe some others over here, but they said, we spent all this time at Alabama State. I sat in one of these at the elementary school over there years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing's happened. So we drilled down, my friend. We drilled down, but maybe we need that extra layer of professionalism that you're asking to be present in downtown and the historic aspects around downtown to maybe get some of these other things off the shelf and implement it and become a priority. But the disappointing part is for you to tell me that there's got to be design professionals involved in reviewing and allowing things to happen in downtown and the associated historical neighborhoods. Well, my friend, you got the same impact in other areas if you increase the level of professionals that you're getting in downtown. Mm-hmm. But those are the things that give me pause, is the fact that when we come to this point, we got to vote. You vote your conscience. But I'm not saying I want to rush to do this or do this because I don't understand or I wasn't involved in the meetings. That's not the point. I'm simply looking at the concept by which you gather data and it's only specific to one area of Montgomery when this thing says Envision Montgomery 2040. Comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can change the name of it and call it something else, that's fine, but it's not a Envision Montgomery 2040 comprehensive plan. This is not it.
I respectfully disagree, Commissioner, but I appreciate your
Yeah,
comment.
and so do I. Last thing I'll mention, I mean, if there's anything, just like what you said, you'd like for, because I mean, you're a commissioner, you can make recommendations on what, should be changed. I mean, we can have that same design professional review citywide. I mean, if that's what you so, desire. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, whatever you want, we will try to mold it and fit it to what you think it should be. Because I mean, we're open. We're not closed-minded at all. I'm with you 100%. I want the best, not just for downtown, but for the whole 160 square miles, whether that's north, south, east, west,
Well,
or
Robert,
right here in the middle.
Since you brought that up, I agree with you. You and I both want the same thing for Montgomery. In a comprehensive plan, that's fine. But here again, an overemphasis is placed on one segment of Montgomery. And as your colleague said, the others is threaded through the other chapters, but you sure don't zero in on the others like you zeroed in on downtown. And we've been through this on one time on downtown, and look at it now. Downtown probably is the most transformative area in Montgomery other than maybe East Chase in that area.
Sure.
Those two. So yeah, the comprehensive plan.
And you want to know why that is, probably, Commissioner?
I know why that
is.
is.
Largely because of probably the administration's focus. And we have a brand new administration now, and I'm very hopeful that there's going to be focus, not just in downtown, but north, south, east, west.
If that's the case, then give them a tool to work with, because this is not it.
I disagree.
Well, we have our point, but if you give him this and say, Mr. Mayor, I got to go by this because of all the issues that you talk about downtown, I would want to know, if I was the mayor, well, why didn't you explore these other areas as specific as you did downtown? But we can disagree.
We just
but
disagree.
I'm just simply saying that you're not going to convince me that this is a comprehensive plan for Montgomery.
I can't convince you.
Let me mention that in a similar vein to what Kippy's saying is that I was most impressed with the work that went into, same thing I said earlier, with what all we've got here in Montgomery and all the things that we've got, but I was most disappointed in the recommendations for Montgomery. I mean, to me, this looked like it was pretty much a pull it off the shelf from whatever city you were at. I mean, work with whatever, work with who, I just didn't see the detail that evidently y'all have gathered the detail. I mean, just a specific issue that may or not be addressed right now, but I mean, you've got a vote that's coming up in the school board that's going to affect the city of Montgomery. Does this plan have a recommendation as to whether we address a tax increase or not? And if not, why not?
Did we address that?
Yes, Commissioner, you bring up a good point. I think it's one of the central challenges in doing comprehensive planning, especially when it's not been done in a long time, is that idea of level of focus. Where do we spend our limited time and resources within the work? When we're charged with 12 topics and looking over 168 square miles, it's a lot to try to encapsulate into one plan. And there may be failings within there, Commissioner, about things that we could have paid a tighter, focused, more attentive eye to. But in general, what we try to work with a comprehensive plan is to first think about that future land use map as being a very, very critical element for your future and probably the foundation piece. And then beyond that, beginning to build out, as I mentioned, really a menu of potential recommendations to move you in a positive direction. They may not be the right ones. They could change with time, but they're also not designed to be overly prescriptive or overly specific in the way that this community could change, in the way, honestly, it has in the last 3 months. I think with a lot of this work, what we've tried to understand is what can help push you today, and hopefully what can help push you in 10 years. And it's always a balance between being very specific and general enough to allow for some interpretation.
Okay, well, I'm 73 now. When this was done last, I was in high school. So you've had a big span to try to go over, and I understand that. But I'll reiterate what I said. I was disappointed in your objectives. I just thought they were too broad and too didn't say anything when it was all said, and like these others, I've been on this commission for 20 years, and I just was not impressed with your objectives. It looked like they were too
Thank you, Commissioner Gann.
too tailor-made or not tailored to the city of Montgomery, too broad.
And I think, Commissioner, not to defend the work, I don't intend to do that by saying this, but I think one of the difficulties we have in trying to bring, large boat approach to this, trying to bring everyone into the planning process, 1,300 people, as you saw, on the screen, is it does, it does. We try to be as specific as possible and create something that is tailored to this community. Although the objectives may feel general, they are things that were shared by the community through this work. I appreciate your comments 100%. Thank
That's
you,
what
Commissioner.
I'm going to say this
and on
to
the-
prove my point, Robert.
Okay,
Page 131,
131.
talking about downtown versus the neighborhoods. Launch, identify, and evaluate Montgomery's possibilities. Neighborhood program. You go in and you're going to select one neighborhood and wrap around all these other policies and components to evaluate one neighborhood. But we don't talk about the same level of specificity about the outcomes for that program, and you don't provide the same level of professionals to give you that research, design experience, and so forth as you do for downtown. And as the gentleman said, downtown should be everybody's neighborhood, but when they leave that neighborhood, they have to go home to their neighborhood. So why should downtown get all the emphasis in the neighborhood they have to go back to have such general approaches? That's my issue, because the people that come from the neighborhoods come from all around the city.
Sure.
They come to downtown.
Yeah.
So to me, that hub is important, but the spokes that leave that hub and terminate somewhere have some, from a planning standpoint at least, have got to have the same rigor and analysis done to it as you would in study downtown.
I get
No doubt.
similar to what Kippy said. You addressed that we've got a stagnant population. You address that. You address how many people come to Montgomery that work outside the city, and your answer to that is work harder to get them back to the city. That's not an answer. That's just a general statement. I could make that statement without having to go through whatever you said for
Well, with
all of
respect,
that.
Commissioner.
You said 40,000 people
Right.
come to the city and work outside the city. That doesn't say anything to say work hard to get them back to the city. That doesn't say anything.
With respect, Commissioner, if it was as simple as a single action to bring 65,000 commuters back into Montgomery, I would have written that action number one.
Right.
But it's not that simple.
I didn't say that, but I think you've obviously addressed these at other cities and whatever that have similar population issues or whatever, or similar coming into the city to work, and there's got to be some specific recommendations that you would have to do that. And I just didn't see that. I just didn't see that.
Well, Commissioner Cook, if you will go to the implementation matrix and the overall action agenda, I think that's really where the rubber meets the road with everything that needs to be improved
What page that is?
comprehensively.
What page that's on, Rob?
Page 236. 236. The action agenda is an implementation matrix over the course of time. Keep in mind, it's 20 years. Montgomery didn't get the way that it's gotten, in a short amount of time, and it's not going to take a short amount of time is not going to get it to where it needs to be. Because so many things have gone neglected. Just much like the schools, much like the school system. You brought that up on the property tax vote. I think it's well known now that Montgomery is the lowest funded school system of a city of its size in the whole entire state of Alabama. So yeah, when the tax vote comes up in November, hopefully everybody would vote yes, because that's going to be a vote for improvement of school facilities, programs, the whole 9 yards, where things have gone neglected over the course of 50 plus years. Much like Montgomery's comprehensive plan from 1963. When you don't do it and do these things the way you're supposed to do them, prescribe whatever the fixes are, then, I mean, you're going to have stagnation. But just keep in mind, stagnation cannot be changed overnight. So I think that the action agenda and the implementation matrix with all of these actions are the actions that Montgomery needs to move forward and make improvements in, multiple areas. And that's the best that I can do.
Well, Robert, thank you for that attempt, but I think it just makes it worse. I'm looking at the actions. I'm looking at them. I mean, we can go down any one of them, pick one.
Okay, let's pick
Adopt a priority development sector map and relative.
Let's pick number one. Conduct the comprehensive zoning code regulation and land use development update.
Yeah,
that's almost as old as the comprehensive plan. And I mean, a lot of the issues that you had tonight is largely because the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations need a desperate update. I mean, that's why it's number one on the list. That's why that's why we keep having access management issues, constant rezonings that you guys have to hear from time to time. And that's why people continue to go to the Board of Zoning Adjustments to make requests for zoning changes. And that's largely because the zoning code and subdivision regulations are old and outdated.
Let's drill down.
And that's something that impacts the whole entire city.
So
let's
drill down on it then.
Okay.
While we're talking about it.
All right.
We vote on this plan tonight. When will this comprehensive zoning code regulations and land use development update take place, and when will it be effective for us to use?
Yes, sir. So you vote on this tonight. Our recommendation to the mayor and city council is starting that update. I mean, we'd love to start it this fiscal year, but there probably is not the money there. But we do have what we call year one needed actions outlined that we've shared with the mayor's office and the finance director, but to at least start the zoning ordinance and subdivision update in the next fiscal year, starting October 1.
Okay, you started October 1. How long does it take, and when will it be ready for us to use?
It's a long-term process?
It is not short. It's not short.
Commissioner,
Minimum of 1 year to 2 years max.
I'll give an example. So, Commissioner, we're currently working in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, north here. They went from their comprehensive plan process directly into their development, their UDC rewrite. That process is scheduled out around, I think, between 18 and 24 months. It's not a small undertaking.
It's not small.
There's a lot of work that's involved with that, especially when you couple that with thinking about the subdivision regulations, thinking about things like access management, some of these things that have just sort of been, pulled into the code over time. So it's a large project, but it's one that has the potential to be quite effective. Effective for you in a number of ways. Citywide, absolutely.
Not just downtown.
Across the board.
Okay, all right, well, whatever we're gonna do, let's do it.
Yeah, let's get it. I mean, are we gonna vote on it?
I think we're at an impasse.
I'm gonna ask the same question. What do you want us to do?
I want you to vote in favor of it. Absolutely, yes, sir. So we can move Montgomery forward.
I move to approve.
Move to approve. Oh, did you vote?
Is there a second? We've got two moves to approve. One of you just second the other one.
Right here.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, that was actually out of order. You should ask anybody.
You have to speak.
Anything.
Okay.
Okay,
second. We can't hear you.
I'm talking to the chair right now.
Okay. I've gotten a notice, anyone in the audience wish to address this item? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on it. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion to approve Envision Montgomery 2040, raise your hand. Opposed? Raise your hand. Motion has been approved.
Thank y'all so very much.
Thank you.
I will not let you down.